All right, let's go. I want to start out this video by talking about what is happening with the final two quests of the official scenarios. We're going to be playing the Scouring of the Shire. It's a scenario made by the Long Extended Party group, but that's after these two scenarios, which are the last two official scenarios. We have the Black Gate Opens, and then we have Mount Doom. And the way these two scenarios work is very cool. The amount of rounds we survive playing the Black Gate Opens is the amount of rounds we have to have Frodo and Sam dunk the ring into Mount Doom. So Aragorn and company are distracting the Eye of Sauron. That gives Frodo and Sam a chance to get to Mount Doom. Okay, that's awesome. Actually, it's an incredibly cool mechanic, and I love it. And there's a couple of ways you can play it. You can play the Black Gate Opens, and then you keep track of the number of rounds by placing resources on the Black Gate at the beginning of the quest phase. And then when you die, which you will do, there is no win condition here. You literally are just surviving as many rounds as you can, and eventually you will die. And then you take the number of resources, and that is the number of rounds you have for Frodo and Sam. Okay, so this also has the dire keyword. The dire keyword lets your threat elimination level go up to 99, and that's when you would lose if you threat out. And then you also can't trigger Valor until you hit 80 threat instead of 40. Okay, and that's nice to have all that extra threat, because your threat will go up like crazy in both quests. They both have the dire keyword. Now the question is, how many rounds do you need to survive over here to give Frodo and Sam a chance? And the answer is 7. I think 7 is what you need to shoot for at a bare minimum. There's 4 quest stages, and these aren't easy. Like the first quest stage, it's 8 progress in solo, and then there's also a 3 progress location that is active, and then you start with a location in the staging area. So you need like at least 12 progress to advance to stage 2. And then stage 3 is 20 progress. So between all of that progress needed in 4 quest stages, I think 7 rounds is the bare minimum you really need to have a chance in solo to get through Mount Doom. Okay, so that is very difficult. It is very difficult to beat this quest with an unlimited number of rounds. So to try to beat it in 7, it's hard. This is an extremely hard quest. A lot of players give it a 10 difficulty. So that is tough. Now, over here, how hard is it to get to 7 rounds? Extremely, especially in solo. It is extremely difficult. In fact, I think it's too hard. It puts a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth. After you get to this point in the campaign, you've played all of these quests, you've had all these epic moments, so much fun, and then you end up just bashing your head against the Black Gate and Mount Doom. And it's a shame, because you want to have fun, but at the end of the campaign, you're just really struggling, and that's not great. But I have a way to make these fun. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about why it's so hard. Okay, what's the big deal? I don't shy away from a challenge. What's the big deal? Okay, 7 rounds over here. Let's look at this card. The Black Gate. Every quest phase, you're going to place a resource here and then increase your threat by 1. Okay, so round 5, let's say, 5 resources there. All right, well, that's not so bad. What's going on here, though? During the staging step, the first player does not reveal an encounter card as normal. Instead, he reveals 1 encounter card for each resource on the Black Gate. Yes, you read that correctly. So, on round 5, for example, you're revealing 5 cards. So, boom, 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 boom. There you go. 5 cards. And these aren't wimpy cards. You got big locations. You have enemies with archery and direct damage. Let's look at this thing. This is ridiculous. Towers of Teeth. X is the number of characters you control. 8 progress needed. You can't play allies when it's active. This makes the Mouth of Sauron attack, who is always in the staging area. So that's a 6 attack. That's awesome. And oh yeah, look at this guy. This is a nice big enemy to have to deal with. And so that's round 5. And if you survive round 5, you go to round 6. Boom, 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 boom. 6 more cards? Are you kidding me? Now, there is a mechanic that clears the active location if you don't quest successfully, which you won't do. But dealing with all those cards, yeah, no. And you're trying to make it to round 7 at least. And that's also taking into account you have all these burdens that you're dealing with that you've collected throughout the whole campaign. I mean, in solo, just trying to get to round 7, which doesn't even guarantee you can win. I mean, trying to beat Mount Doom in 7 rounds is not easy. It's so hard to beat this thing. It's just really tough. The Mount Doom is full of really tough encounter cards as well. You got Big Nazgul, you have big locations, horrible treacheries. So beating that in 7 rounds is not guaranteed. And this does not scale well when comparing solo to multiplayer. Let's say we're back at round 5. It's just the first player revealing these additional cards. So if you got a 3-player game, you got 3 times as many heroes and player cards, and the first player is revealing the 5 cards. So here we go. The first 5 cards get revealed by the first player, and then player 2 reveals a card, and then player 3 reveals a card. You're only adding 2 more cards, but you have 3 times as many player cards helping you out. So obviously, it's a lot easier in multiplayer to make it to round 7, dealing with the effects of that card. But in solo, getting to 7 rounds, nearly impossible unless you brought some sort of overpowered, quest-specific tech deck that lets you get there. But if you just brought the same deck you've been using to play to get to this point, it's probably not going to happen. I really tried. I really tried to bring a thematic deck that could get to round 7, and I could not. I was getting pretty frustrated. I was getting frustrated over here at Mount Doom because I couldn't even beat the quest playing it thematically. Maybe if I got like the perfect hand and the encounter deck was like not hitting me with anything too hard at the beginning, but I was getting so frustrated, not where I wanted to be. I was not having fun, and I just did not want to just be endlessly frustrated here at the very end of the campaign. And so what can you do about it? Well, there's 2 things you can do about it, actually. The first thing you could do is house rules. So maybe over at the Black Gate, every odd turn, you reveal the additional cards. So round 1, you reveal 1 card, and then 1 card. And then on turn 3, you reveal 3 cards, then 1 card. Then on turn 5, you reveal 5 cards. Maybe that would help. Keep bouncing back and forth between the 1 and what you need to reveal based on the quest effect. But honestly, I think the best way to play these 2 scenarios is easy mode. Switch it to easy mode. Now, I don't like the name easy mode. There's nothing easy about it. The only thing easy about it is you could still lose easily. Easy mode is when you remove all the encounter cards with the gold ring around the encounter set icon like this. And you also begin the game with an extra resource on each of your heroes. So these get removed from the encounter deck. Brandon called this mode thematic mode, which I really like. I really like thematic mode because you still have the theme of the quest, but it gives you a chance to breathe a little bit without the game destroying you right off the bat. You can experience the game. I think easy mode is not a great name. People think of like wimpy mode or baby mode. I think it should have just been called like that. This should have been the standard mode, or it should have just been called thematic mode. And then when you shuffle all these cards back in and you only start with 1 resource, that could have been called like challenge mode or something. But anyway, the reason playing easy mode isn't easy is even though I'm taking these cards out of the deck, there's still copies of the same card in the deck. Like here's a copy of that Nazgul without the gold ring, so I could still reveal that. In fact, the only card being taken out of the Mount Doom deck that isn't also represented within the deck on easy mode is this card here, which makes Gollum appear easier. So I'm actually going to put that back in the deck. I think it would be thematic for Gollum to show up. So I'm going to increase the odds of revealing Gollum somehow. But yeah, I'm going to play easy mode. I'm going to take out these gold ringed cards from both decks. And man, when I did that, when I was playtesting decks, all of a sudden it got so much better and I started having fun. It's still hard. Everything else is the same. I'm still revealing 5 cards on turn 5. Everything else is the same. It's just not bone-crushingly hard. I could actually put some theme in my decks. I could actually have some fun with my deck build, and I could just barely hang on to get wins, but I wasn't getting frustrated, and I started having fun again, which, of course, is the whole goal of playing the game. So that's how I'm going to be playing these 2 quests. I'm going to play them in thematic mode or easy mode, And I'm also going to be playing them in epic multiplayer mode. So there's a way to play these 2 quests at the exact same time, and you actually bounce back and forth between the 2 games, or if there was multiple players, you'd each be playing your own game. There's a card that tells you how to interact between the 2 quests. The Nazgul can fly in between the 2 quests. It's extremely fun, and I'm really looking forward to playing this way because I haven't actually done it yet. But I would say if you get to this point of your campaign and you're struggling and you're not having fun, consider switching to thematic mode or easy mode, and you will still have a hard time beating these quests, but it won't be frustratingly hard, and I think it would really help you a lot. Last thing I want to say is maybe I could have finally came up with some decks that I would be considered to be thematic enough to beat the Black Gate in 7 rounds, and then I could somehow eke out a 7-round victory on Mount Doom. But since you're playing the 2 games at the exact same time, the odds of me getting lucky on the quest here and lucky on the quest here on the exact same playthrough while I'm trying to record it, I just don't have that much time. I think it would have taken me so many tries. I would have just got frustrated, and I don't know if it ever actually would have happened. So I really just kind of gave up, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to play thematic mode, and it's still going to be hard, but it's not incredibly hard, and it's also a lot more fun, which is my goal. All right, let's take a look at the decks that I ended up building for these 2 quests. Okay, let's start with the Black Gate opens. I am going with a 3 Hunters contract. So this is the contract where once each of your heroes has 2 restricted attachments, you can flip the contract over. They get +1 willpower for each restricted attachment, and then you can exhaust the contract to heal 1 damage on each hero. And when it's on side A, the first restricted attachment you play on each hero each round costs 1 less, and everybody can hold on to 1 additional restricted attachment. Why am I going with a 3 Hunters? Lots of ally hate in the Black Gate opens. It's actually to my benefit to have the least amount of characters. There's that Towers of Teeth that's threat based on characters controlled. There's discard allies. Lots of ally hate for what's supposed to be a really big epic battle between 2 armies. So I'm going with the Aragorn I have to bring, of course. He's awesome, actually. Spend 1 resource from his resource pool to ready him once per phase with his awesome stats, and then hopefully I get all kinds of stuff on him. And then Eomer's back, so we got Aragorn and Eomer fighting side by side again. I love it. Eomer is the perfect 3 Hunters hero, because you spend a resource from his resource pool after he commits to the quest, and he can attack an enemy in the staging area. And since the contract is giving him willpower for every restricted attachment he has, he's usually questing for 4, which is really good. And then if I get the Banner of Elendil on Aragorn, he is questing for 1 more. So that is incredibly useful. Also, of course, got to have Gandalf. So this is Gandalf the White, because I have the boon on him that gives him +1 to all of his stats. And, he's amazing. He can play your top card of your deck. And when he does so, he's considered to have all of the icons except Fellowship. And then I have all kinds of stuff for him as well. And then our final hero is Gimli. Gimli is great with his 2 willpower, but he's probably not going to be questing very much. I need him to defend probably in the early rounds and actually take some damage, and then I need him to swing back at some of these big enemies we're going to be up against. And of course, I got lots of stuff for him. What kind of stuff? Well, here's the list. I'm not going to go through it. It's all pretty obvious. Steward of Gondor, at this point of time in the story, Aragorn hasn't declared himself the king of Gondor yet. And I think technically Prince Imrahil is in charge. And although he's not a steward, this is meant to represent there is no king of Gondor. There's still someone else ruling over Gondor. And this will go on Eomer, actually, so he can help pay for his ability and, most importantly, the big tech of the quest, which is Doom Hangs Still. So when you're playing epic multiplayer mode, Doom Hangs Still is incredibly useful. Now you got to get your threat up to 80 before you can trigger this because of the dire keyword, which lets you threat out at 99, and Valor doesn't start until 80. But if you get to 80, which isn't hard with this quest, if you raise your threat by 2 and spend 5 leadership resources, you can skip the quest phase. And then by skipping the quest phase, you actually skip placing the resource on the black gate as well. So you don't reveal any cards, and you're just buying one more round. You're literally buying a round for Frodo and Sam. The trick is to get to the point where you can play this darn thing. It costs 5. You need to have 80 threat. I mean, it's not that... if you get to the point where you're actually playing this thing to buy Frodo and Sam time to dunk the ring in Mount Doom, you have survived one heck of a fight up to that point. So all of these attachments are going to help get my heroes to the point where I can hopefully play 2 of these, and the goal is for Frodo and Sam to get the ring into Mount Doom while I'm buying them some rounds. Let's look at the Frodo and Sam deck. This should look pretty familiar by now. I really am trying to just keep it where it's Sam and Frodo doing all the heavy lifting. Master of the Forge is an event with stats. It's going to help find me all the attachments I need. And then Rosie is back, once again representing Sam and Frodo's thoughts of home, of the Shire, and gaining willpower from those thoughts of making it back home, saving the Shire. So Rosie's in here. So if I get at least one Master of the Forge, and then, of course, I'm only allowed 1 copy of Rosie in play. That's only 2 allies in play, which is great because this is another quest where it does not like you to have a bunch of allies. Okay, what attachments am I looking for? Well, a lot. A lot. I'm allowed to have Strider in both of these decks because each game is considered a separate game. You could even run duplicate copies of heroes between the 2 quests. So Sam, of course, learned a thing or 2 from Strider, so that's why he will be digging out Strider using the Grey Wanderer contract at the beginning of the quest, and then the Grey Wanderer contract lets him raise his threat by 1, and then he can choose 2, collect 2 resources, heal up to 3 damage, or ready. And then we have more readying. I'm really hoping I don't have to do much combat. The best thing that could happen is I reveal locations at the beginning of this quest, and then by the time enemies show up, my threat is still low enough that I just quest over them to help me quest over them. Lots of willpower boosting things, Fireside Song with all the songs, Friend of Friends, Protector of Lorien. I even have the Favor of the Lady and a couple copies of Dunedain Quests in here. 3 copies of Fast Hitch, 2 copies of Cram. Going to need lots of readying in this quest because you have to do tests that require you to exhaust and compare your willpower to discarded cards. A single copy of Orc Disguise to save me from having to defend. And then the events are mostly card draw effects, some willpower boosting. The Hobbit Sense is there so I can avoid getting attacked if something terrible happens. Power of Orthanc is here to get rid of this condition attachment that if it ever goes on Sam, I've basically auto-lost. So I got to make sure I do not get this condition attachment on Sam that makes him unable to commit to those fortitude tests, and he also would have to discard all of his attachments. So not good, not good. Okay, 1 copy of Taste It Again to maybe help me in combat. Again, not very combat heavy. I'm really hoping to sneak my way to Mount Doom and just dunk the ring without anyone noticing I was there. So, as I've said before, you have seen a very similar deck to this in quite a few of the Sam and Frodo decks. There's really only so many ways you can build a Frodo and Sam deck, and this is the best way to do it I have found, with the Master of the Forge digging out all of your attachments, Rosie boosting a stat if needed, and it's pretty thematic, I think. It's about as Frodo and Sammy as I can get. I mean, I needed a couple allies, but I think having this deck beat Mount Doom is a theme win, and I'm really proud of it if it can pull off the win. All right. So that was the 2 decks, and up next we're going to play the game. So it's epic multiplayer mode, and it's going to be fun. It's also going to be exhausting. It's very hard to run 2 different decks against 2 different quests. It's a lot to think about, a lot to keep track of. I'm really happy with how the video turned out, so I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you've been enjoying this series. Take care, everybody. See you at the Black Gate Opens and Mount Doom.